us be brought right into it. And the Spirit of the Lord is saying, listen well. Have both eyes open and both ears open. Listen to what is said and listen also to what is not said. But more than that, listen and look at them, because by their fruits you shall know them. They might come to you like wolves in sheep's clothing. Be able to recognize them. They will offer you the world, but find out where they got the world from, how they got it. Sometimes we don't ask the right questions because the Spirit of God that is there prompting us, we have no time to listen. We don't hear. And that is why we beat our breasts and say, Lord, forgive me. In the field of literature, the same. A lot of wonderful literature, but a lot of bad stuff. And very often, it is the bad stuff, the stuff that poisons the minds of our children and ourselves, that seems to be more attractive. That seems to be more attractive. I could go on, my dear friends, into law and terrorism and even religion. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 2 to 5. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. But you be watchful in all things. The time will come when all manner of religions will come up and people will flock to them. And some of them will be inspired by God and others will not. And the Spirit of God is there to remind and tell you, be discerning. Know where you are. Know where you're going. Know who it is that you are following. The more churches there are, the more there is violence, the more there is all those sins that are still being committed. Nothing is changing. Everyone is going to church, but no one is becoming a better human being. There's a problem there somewhere. And the Spirit of God is saying, be wise enough to discern and to hear what is being said, and according to the gospel that you know, and you will know them whether they're speaking the truth or whether they're lying. Satanism is rampant in our world. I mentioned Obia earlier on, and we joked about it and says it doesn't happen here. Well, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen here, really, because it's happening everywhere. And in the days when those things were hushed and talked about in the back rooms, those days are over. Now it's talked about openly. There are people who will tell you they are fasting for the destruction of family life because they are Satanists. They're not afraid to tell you. They're not ashamed to tell you. And the Spirit of God is saying, are you seeing that? Are you reading the signs of the times? Can you see how the world is going? And have you made up your mind that you cannot take part in any of those things? Have you? Are you ready now? Later? When? If you're not ready now, when will you ever be ready? And I say these things, my dear friends, not so much to scare us, but maybe it is true that we should be scared a little bit, to shake us a little bit, to recognize this is the reality of the world in which we live. The wholesale collapse of ethical and moral values, promiscuity, abuse of power, religious as well as secular. In the last days, perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And from such people, turn away. That, my dear friends, is the world we live in now. God has always intervened in human history, in biblical times as in our present day. And what we need to do is to hear what God is saying. Listen to the advocate. Listen to the consoler. Listen to the comforter. Take his words to heart. Follow his dictates. Take his advice and experience his power. And so, dear friends, that brings me to the last part of the sharing, the last hour. We looked at rejoice, regret. What is the last word? Resolve. Now it is then, my dear friends, to make a decision. I want to say that if we are here tonight, we have already made that decision for God. That we have heard him call and we thought, let us come to the upper room and prepare ourselves for the great feast of Pentecost through prayer. Through prayer and going through the scriptures again and sharing faith together. But maybe, dear friends, there is more that we can all do. Maybe there is a greater depth that we need to go to that we have been afraid to go to. Maybe we're still on the surface. Yes, we believe. Yes, we know the Lord. Yes, we know the songs, we can clap for joy. But somehow, maybe there are certain things in our lives and in our hearts that still need to be renewed. And the Lord is saying, now is the time. Now is the day. Now is the time. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Now is the time, dear friends, to say, I want to live the life in the Spirit. How many of you have done the Life in the Spirit seminar? And you probably have one going even now. If you haven't done it, do it. Because what that teaches you is how to truly surrender your life to the Spirit of God. And to live the life in the Spirit means to be attentive to the voice of God every single day of my life. So that whenever I'm faced with a decision, the one I go to is the Lord. And he will teach me how to live my life in good times and in bad. In whatever situation I find myself, he will be there to direct me. And that is why I do not fear. I will not be afraid. And that is why there will all be the joy in my heart, even when I'm faced with the greatest challenge, because I know the Spirit of God is with me. Jesus came that we may have life and have it in abundance. And sometimes I ask people, do you have the abundant life? And they say, what abundant? Charlie, I have so many problems. Abundant life, let me tell you. Sit down, Father, let me tell you. And they start. I say, but there is something wrong. Oh yes, I know we have problems. You lost your job, you don't know how you're going to pay the mortgage. I know that. And your children are a bit wayward and you can't imagine how they're still your children because you didn't teach them any of those things. But God is still there. And if somehow you are attuned to the Spirit, there is a way of dealing with all these things that others who know you and know what you're going through, seeing the smile on your face and the song in your heart, will say, what is it you have that I don't have? Tell me, tell me. And that opens up the time then for you to say to them, it is the Spirit of God. I am not alone. He has touched me and I am no longer the same. And so I face all my challenges bravely because I'm not alone. Today, my dear friends, we have to resolve and say, Lord, I need you. I'm sure you have heard of people who have had to go to court and they say, I don't want a lawyer, I will defend myself. I will speak in my own, I can handle it by myself, I can handle this, I don't want anybody. And sometimes they do well, but sometimes they fail miserably because they need someone. And you know, dear friends, we sometimes do the same thing with the Spirit of God. We say, I can handle that. God, take a back seat. I can do this by myself. And today we say again, Lord, there is nothing I can do without your help. Not even the simplest things. If I stand here and breathe the air, it's because you are telling me it's okay. And the day will come when I will stop breathing this air that I breathe, so taken for granted. If I stand here at all and I can speak, it is because you allow it. If I can think, if I can see anything, there is nothing that I cannot do, or rather that I can do, except by God's hand and God's desire and will. But sometimes, dear friends, we tend to take these things for granted. You say, I did this myself. In fact, we even have phrases like, he's a self-made man, or she's a self-made woman. I mean, we know what it means. It means that they worked hard to get to where they are. But who gave them the strength to work hard? Who gave them the power to work hard? Who gave them the ability to think and to get all those degrees they have behind their names? Who? And it is to say, Lord, I am in your hands. I give my life to you this day. Take it, Lord, and use it as you will. To be able to say like St. Paul, I live, not I, but Christ lives in me. And to be able to say also like St. Paul, no matter how many things I've done and people praise me for, all my achievements, I count them as rubbish. All I want is to know Jesus Christ and the power of his resurrection in my life. All I want is to know my Lord and in him to abide. Tonight, my dear friends, we'll resolve that I cannot do it alone. That where I am weak, he is strong. Where I am unable, he is able. Where I say I cannot, he says I can and I will. Tonight we resolve that we put our trust not in ourselves, not in our own ability, not in science, not in politics, not in technology, but in the Lord. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because he's there. That is our resolution tonight. To be sensitive enough to what the Spirit is saying. And not only to be sensitive to what the Spirit is saying, but to say, Lord, open my heart to receive and to take the advice that you are giving. Because you see, my dear friends, God is so good that he's given us free will. And even when he speaks to us, we have the choice to say yes or no. We have the choice to do whatever he's asking or to refuse to do it. And our resolution tonight is to say, Lord, when you speak, let my will be in yours. That whatever you ask of me, I will say yes. That whatever you need from me, I will say yes. That whatever you tell me to do, no matter how difficult it seems or how impossible, I will do it. We think, my dear friends, of Abraham, who was asked to sacrifice his own son. And the boy says, Father, we have the fire, we have the lamb, but we have the wood, but where is the lamb of sacrifice? And the father says, the Lord will provide. His heart is breaking because he knows this is the boy that he's going to sacrifice. But he goes because God called. My dear friends, you know the situations in your life that you find most difficult to hand over to the Lord. I invite you now, in the silence of your hearts, to take a moment and to decide tonight what it is that you still need to give up to the Lord, and to give it to him. And to give it to him willingly. To say to him, Lord, come into my heart. Take possession of all those areas that I still find difficult to give up. Maybe it's a relationship that you're in that you know is not right. Lord, tonight I give it to you. Maybe it's something that is in the house that you brought in from someone that you thought was giving you a good deal,